Okay, back to the din of mezuzah. Now, if you put up many mezuzahs at one time, we said you make a bracha, providing you're putting on a mezuzah that has a door. Not a doorway, but actually a door. But you don't, even if you put up many mezuzahs, you only make the bracha l'geboa mezuzah. If you travel many dishes, if you make a bracha, then the brachas are tfilas kelim. But here you don't say l'geboa mezuzah. In the poskim, right, whatever the reason is, that you don't make l'geboa mezuzah is plural, he wrote l'geboa mezuzah. Now, if somebody, let's say, takes down the mezuzah to check, which happens, you're supposed to do a minimal twice in 7 years, preferably every year. If you check your mezuzah, and then you put it back up, do you make a new bracha or not? So there's different opinions in halacha. Our custom is that if it's put up the same day, so, you check it, brings it to the sefer looks at it, the sefer comes to you, and you put it up the same day, you don't make a bracha. If it's a few days, like 2-3 days, then the minhag is, even if it's kosher, you make a bracha anyway when you put it back up. Again, providing there's a door on the doorway. A day or two, it doesn't say, it says a day or two, it doesn't say. No, that's the same time, that's not. What? 1 day, 2 days, whatever. Some poskim write, if you take it off, you put on, you make a bracha anyway. Now, if you change it for a different mezuzah, then, according to many opinions, you have to, that's our minhag, then you definitely make a new bracha if you're putting up a better mezuzah.
So if you take down 9 mezuzahs and put back 9 mezuzahs, you don't know which one goes where?
Al Pidin, you don't have to know where the mezuzahs.
Nothing the same mezuzah on the same door.
Doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. The bracha is a chiv to have a mezuzah on the door. The question is, there are some people that are makpid, even though halachically it's not important at all. Let's say you have 10 mezuzahs to check, so you don't remember which door, which mezuzah went. So halachically it doesn't matter, as long as you put it back up on the doorway and there's a mezuzah on the door, it doesn't matter where the mezuzah was before.
It doesn't have to be the same mezuzah for no bracha.
What?
If I take down this mezuzah and that mezuzah,
Yeah.
and I put them back up, and I don't remember which one went where, I still don't make a bracha.
Correct.
Even though it may not be the same mezuzah going.
Again, that doesn't matter. But some people are makpid that they write on the mezuzah itself which doorway in the house it was, to put it back up the way it was. The reason for, I don't know the reason for that, but it could be because the boards in the Mishkan, the Kroshim, the Gemara learns out that they were numbered like Aleph, Bais, Aleph, Bais, Bais, Aleph. The Kroshim were always put exactly the same boards, the way they were always standing. Now it's board 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. They didn't mix them up every time they moved. I don't know, but some people are makbid that they write which doorway it's on. But again, halachically, definitely doesn't matter. Now, what happens if a mezuzah? 1 second. What happens if a mezuzah fell down? For whatever reason, the mezuzah fell down. So the minhag is that you check it. This is the minhag because Shem is showing something that it fell down for a reason. Then when you put it back up, you have to make a bracha. There's an interesting story with the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov, whenever he walked by a door, would kiss the mezuzah. One time the Baal Shem Tov walked by a door and he just touched it. He didn't kiss it, he just touched the mezuzah. The Talmidim were wondering, they weren't called Chassidim yet, the Talmidim were wondering why it happened. They checked the mezuzah, Taka was puzzled. That's why the Baal Shem Tov didn't kiss it. But in our circles, we know that the Rebbe, we never saw the Rebbe kiss the mezuzah. The Rebbe, when he walked by a mezuzah, put his hand on it, and that was it. He never kissed it. Again, kissing, we learned the other day, is not the most important part of the mitzvah. The mitzvah mezuzah, therefore, if a kid can't reach the mezuzah in the bedroom, it doesn't matter. You don't lower the mezuzah and put it in a non-kosher place just for the kid to be able to kiss it. So you don't, what? Halachically, you don't. In other words, if let's say you're checking 10 mezuzahs at one time, and now the house won't be with mezuzahs, and let's say it's going to take a few days. So halachically it doesn't matter because the fact that you're checking the mezuzahs, that's part of having the mezuzah. It's part of having it. So it's not an issue. Some people will like at least like one mezuzah they'll keep, just, in theory, so to speak, to have a mezuzah and have at least one mezuzah, and then when they get back, they'll give that one to check. But again, halachically, if you're checking the mezuzahs, then it's like you have them because it's all part of the mitzvah of checking, of having the mezuzah.
Is there a time limit?
Huh?
Is there a time limit?
You mean how?
Someone checked their mezuzahs in Elul and didn't get it back.
My strong suggestion, if they gave the mezuzah an elul to check and didn't give them back, they should get a different sefer. I mean, you have to find a sefer. What people do, especially when Sofim are busy, what they'll do is they'll ask the sefer, when's going to be a good time that I can give it to you, that I'll get it back a day or two later, instead of I'm giving it to them when everybody else is giving it to them. You don't want to have mezuzahs down that long. And if you're down that long, you should really get a different sefer that's going to do it quicker.
How long is it?
It should take not more than a few days. Sometimes people have to send us, there's no sefer in town, so they'll send it out of town, overnight it to New York, and then it'll take a few days to check, and then they'll overnight it back. Okay, but you shouldn't leave at the house without mezuzahs for an extended period of time. Okay, what?
So you check the mezuzahs, let's say two mezuzahs. One has a doorway with a door, the other one doesn't have a door. And you've got them mixed up. Isn't there like a Yeridah Makedesh? It's better to know which one was on the doorway.
No, it doesn't matter. What you read about Kodesh? What are you doing?
This one you make a bracha, this one you don't.
So, that makes the mezuzah better. It makes the mezuzah better.
No.
So it's not Malam Kodesh.
You're lowering it from a mezuzah.
What you lowering?
Bracha
You take a shodosh and make it shoyad, you're lowering the kedusha of the Ritzua. What's the difference in the doorpost? If the doorpost is Malam HaKodesh on the doorpost? What does that have to do with the Maila? You're not murdered the mezuzah. You're not murdered the mezuzah.
That's the story that I heard once. And that's why you should label them which one where
But it says makes sense in the context of you saying that one of you say bracha and the other one is not so significant. So there is a difference.
You're not lowering the standard of the mezuzah when you put it on a different door.
Some people can feel that they buy a better mezuzah for this.
Okay, so then when you check it, you want to make sure the better, but what does that have to do with?
If a shul doesn't need a mezuzah, why don't we become accustomed to putting them on?
I tell you, because the Bais Medrash where people eat and sleep and do other things too.
Today no one sleeps in the basement.
We just spoke during the speeches, everybody sleeps. That's the fact.
Amish, someone falls asleep on a table because they're not Amish.
They're mamish deep sleep. Yeah. We had guys in this show, not mentioning names, they fell asleep, but it's interesting. As soon as they got up to speak, they already fell asleep. And sometimes they've slept and through Musaf. I'm not making it up. You had to be woken up after Musaf.
Stan was snoring so loud, it woke me up.
It's a problem. So you can take him to Bais Din. There's something called Gezel Shina. Just like you're not allowed to steal, it says in Shechonah, and I'm not joking, it says in Shechonah, you're not allowed to steal somebody's sleep from them. Because you're stealing something. It's not very tangible.
The guy fell asleep before the rabbi started speaking. So the rabbi says, hey, buddy, I didn't even start yet. He says, Rabbi,
I trust you, yeah. I trust you. You'll put me to sleep. Okay. Now, what happens if you have, like this over here? You have a small door, okay, in the entrance to the parking lot. You have the big gate, and then you have the little gate. Okay? Halachically, they both need mezuzah. You can't say, okay, it's one big frame, because the fact that there's a little door inside the big door, or if it's next to it, it would still, huh?
not over here.
Because there's no lentil on top. But the door that would need. Okay, we're getting there. But yeah, if it would, the big door would have them. You have many times. You have these in factory, in factories. You have the big doors, and then inside the big door, you have a little door for people. Yeah, pedestrian door inside the big door. So then you would need two mezuzahs, one on the little door and one on the big door, because they do different doorposts, they do different entries. Okay, Dalit we said.
It's a very, very big Aron Kodesh. Remember closet on Mashal needs a mezuzah, right? 36 square feet.
6 feet by 6 feet, yeah?
6 by 6. Right, so 36 square feet, right?
Yeah.
So would you say, well, an Aron Kodesh doesn't need one because it's a secretary, just like a shul. Why wouldn't a massive Aron Kodesh potentially?
You don't walk through the door. It's not a door to...
A massive one.
No, but I'm saying a doorway is made to walk through.
No, let's say it's a massive one.
Huh?
There are some you walk into.
Yes.
If you're going to walk like an elevator.
Right.
An elevator that's 6 feet by 6 feet, halachically needs a mezuzah.
There's no concept of temporary, it's not a real room.
Well, we'll get into temporary soon, let's say, an RV. Or somebody goes, there's a big shayla in halacha, you go to the bungalow colony for 2 months. So, does it need a mezuzah? Does it not need a mezuzah? So the Shulchan Aruch talks about, they didn't talk about RVs in those days, or the bungalow colonies, but they spoke about in a boat, people used to travel by boat for extended periods of time. So they bring down that in the boats, because it's not made to live there permanently, but today people have a yacht, let's say. If a guy owns a yacht that he goes often, then he needs a mezuzah on all the doors.
Shower, bath.
Yeah, I'm saying then it would need an RV that people use and needs a mezuzah al pi din. On your private jet, only if you eat and sleep there.
I thought you said the criteria is permanent dwelling.
The question, what is permanent? So 30 days makes it permanent.
Right, so you're in the event that somebody chooses to travel in 30-day increments with their RV, but...
So I'll give you an example what they bring down over here. He brings down, one opinion says that in the country where you go for 2 or 3 months, you don't need to put a mezuzah on the bungalows. Really? 1 second, this is what he says. And he says, he brings a raya from the Rabbi Yosef. Okay? When a guy runs away, guys, the government used to say he ran away, and they rent goyish houses, so, and they're going to be there for a while to hide. So he writes, you should put up mezuzah, if you're there for more than 30 days, you should put up a mezuzah without a bracha. So some poskim say, what's the comparison? Over there, you're forced to run out of your house. You don't want to live in that house where you're going to be, right? You don't want to be there. When you have a bungalow colony, you do want to be there. So some guy said, well, you're forced to run away from the city. So, I mean, come on. No, I'm saying that's a discussion. But the bottom line is, the minig is, on our circles, the bungalow colony to put a mezuzah with a bracha.
According to that logic, when I'm sure when Israel had its first prisons, they went to the Rabbi Yosef, like, do we put mezuzahs on prison cells? Nobody wants to be here, so who's the chiyuv on for a mezuzah to be on a prison cell?
No, the chiyuv would be on the government at that time. Who owns the prison?
So the prisoners...
I'll give you an example. It's a big shayla. We're not going to get into it today. Somebody owns an Airbnb, okay, and they rent it out. Sometimes goyim rent it, sometimes Jews rent it. You don't know. Now we learned that the din of mezuzah is on chayvus hador. The responsibility of the mezuzah is on the guy that lives there. Okay, that means if I own a building and I rent it out only to goyim. It's a neighborhood where there's no Jews, okay? So only goyim rent the apartments. I don't have to put mezuzahs on the apartments because they're renting it, it's theirs. The reason why a hospital, for instance, would not need a mezuzah, because you're not renting that room. Even if you pay to be in the hospital, you're not renting that particular room. If they want to move you to a different room, you can. If I rent a house, you can't just move me out whenever you want. So therefore, in a hospital, you're not really renting the room. So who does the hospital belong to? It belongs to the owner of the hospital, if it's private or public company. We spoke about that because somebody donated them, so they have them.
If you sell them, you said that they should have them now.
No, not in a hospial.
No, not the patients, the owners.
No, I'm saying, but Lepel, because it's not made to live in. A hospital is not made to live in. If you have a retirement hotel, or called assisted living, or those things, old age homes, that people live there for months and months and months. Yeah, you need a mezuzah, even if there's no patient in the room. But because the owner is a Jew and he owns it, he needs to have a mezuzah. But an Airbnb would be a shaila because I own the Airbnb. Okay, so it's not rented. Whose is it? It's mine. So technically, it'd be a big. What? It's very possible that in Airbnb you would need a mezuzah unless if you're renting it long term to a guy.
What do you mean by long term?
The guy's there for half a year, so for the half a year the guy is there, you don't need a mezuzah. But when he moves out, you would need a mezuzah.
It's the same as you sell the house.
Huh?
Hotel is similar to Airbnb, so what do you do with the hotel?
Now, what happens if you have a hotel in Israel? I think the hotels have mezuzahs. No. Besides the fact that in Israel, the chi of a mezuzah, in halacha, in Israel, you rent a house, you have to put a mezuzah right away with the bracha. In Chutz La'aretz, if you rent a house, you don't make a bracha for 30 days. So there is a difference in Eretz Yisrael. But nevertheless, let's say a Jew would own a Jewish hotel. Okay? Al Pi Din, you would probably have to put up mezuzahs on the doors.
Probably to sell it to a guy side to side because there's Shabbos and things of that. Like if it's not a Jewish.
You don't sell the building to the guy, you sell the business. Yeah, but the building is yours. You're not giving the guy the building, trust me.
No, I understand that, but you're renting it to the guy. Meaning, if you owned a Marriott in Arkansas, you would never consider putting up mezuzahs because, and there's still Shabbos, there's Shreifas, you have to anyway sell them.
That's another shaila. Those are all complicated shaila to be continued. It's very complicated, really.